Welcome to Audiobook Heritage. Today we present As Man Thinketh. As a man thinketh, thought. The aphorism, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, encompasses the entirety of a man's existence and is comprehensive enough to touch upon every condition and circumstance in his life. Man is, quite literally, what he thinks. His character is the total sum of all his thoughts. Just as a plant springs from, and cannot exist without, its seed, every action of a man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and cannot manifest without them. This principle applies equally to acts deemed spontaneous and unpremeditated, as much as to those that are deliberately executed. Action is the blossom of thought, and joy and suffering are its fruits. Thus, a man reaps the sweet and bitter produce of his own cultivation. Thought in the mind hath made us. What we are by thought was wrought and built. If a man's mind hath evil thoughts, pain comes on him, as comes the wheel the ox behind. If one endures impurity of thought, joy follows him, as his own shadow surely. Man is a growth by law, not a creation by artifice. And cause and effect is as absolute and unwavering in the hidden realm of thought as it is in the world of visible and material things. Noble and godlike character is not a matter of favor or chance, but rather the natural result of continued effort in right thinking, the outcome of long-cherished association with godlike thoughts. Conversely, an ignoble and bestial character, in the same process, arises from the continual harboring of base thoughts. Man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself, and he also creates the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy, strength, and peace. By the right choice and true application of thought, man ascends to divine perfection. Through the abuse and wrong application of thought, he descends below the level of the beast. Between these two extremes lie all the shades of character, and man is both their creator and their master. Among the beautiful truths regarding the soul that have been revealed and illuminated in this age, none is more uplifting or filled with divine promise and assurance than this, that man is the master of thought, the molder of character, the maker and shaper of his conditions, environment, and destiny. As a being of power, intelligence, and love, and the guardian of his own thoughts, man holds the key to every situation. Within himself resides the transformative and regenerative agency that empowers him to become whatever he chooses. Man is always the master, even in his weakest and most abandoned. Comes the foolish master who misgoverns his household. When he begins to reflect on his condition and diligently searches for the laws upon which his existence is based, he transforms into the wise master, directing his energies with intelligence and shaping his thoughts towards fruitful outcomes. This is the conscious master, and a person can only achieve this by discovering within themselves the laws of thought. This discovery is entirely a matter of application, self-analysis, and experience. Only through extensive searching and effort can one obtain gold and diamonds. Similarly, a person can uncover every truth connected to their existence if they are willing to dig deep into the mine of their soul. They must realize that they are the architects of their character, the shape of their life, and the builders of their destiny. This realization can be proven if they observe, and modify their thoughts, tracing their effects on themselves, on others, and on their circumstances. By patiently practicing and investigating the links between cause and effect, they can even utilize every experience, no matter how trivial or mundane, as a means of gaining self-knowledge, which brings understanding, wisdom, and power. In this pursuit, the law is absolute. He that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Only through patience, practice, and relentless determination can one enter the door of the temple of knowledge. The effect of thought man's mind can be compared to a garden, which may be carefully cultivated or left to grow wild. Regardless of how it's tended, it will inevitably produce something. If no beneficial seeds are sown, then a multitude of useless weed seeds will take root, continuing to spread their kind. Just as a gardener tends to his plot, keeping it free from weeds and nurturing the flowers and fruits he desires, so too can a man nurture the garden of his mind. He must remove all the wrong, useless, and impure thoughts, while cultivating the flowers and fruits of right, useful, and pure thoughts. Through this process, a man will eventually come to realize that he is the master gardener of his soul and the director of his life. He begins to uncover, within himself, the laws of thought and gains a deeper understanding of how thought forces and mental elements shape his character, circumstances, and destiny. Thought and character are one. Character can only manifest and reveal itself through environment and circumstance, which means that the outer conditions of a person's life will always be in harmony with their inner state. This does not imply that a man's circumstances at any given moment are a complete reflection of his character, but rather that those circumstances are intricately connected to a vital element within him, making them essential for his development at that time. Every individual is where they are by the law of their being. The law of their being. The thoughts that have shaped their character have led them there. In the arrangement of their lives, there is no element of chance. Everything is the result of a law that cannot fail. This principle holds true for those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings, just as much as for those who are content within them. As a progressive and evolving being, there is no element of chance. Man finds himself in his current situation to learn and grow. Each circumstance holds a spiritual lesson for him. Once he understands it, that situation fades away and makes room for new experiences. Man is tossed about by the circumstances of life for as long as he perceives himself as a mere product of external conditions. However, when he awakens to the realization that he possesses creative power, then he can start in new circumstances. Thereafter, in other words, inevitably ends up where they are. That he can cultivate the hidden potentials within himself from which these circumstances arise. He becomes the rightful master of his own destiny. Every individual who has practiced self-control and self-purification understands that changes in their circumstances are directly proportional to the shifts in their mental state. Indeed, when a person diligently works to address the shortcomings in their character and makes noticeable progress, they often find themselves navigating through a whirlwind of challenges and changes. The soul attracts that which it secretly nurtures, that which it loves, and that which it fears. It rises to the heights of its deepest aspirations and falls to the level of its unrefined desires. Circumstances are the means through which the soul receives its own. Every thought seed that is sown or allowed to take root in the mind eventually produces its own outcomes, blossoming sooner or later into actions that bear their own fruits of opportunity and circumstance. Good thoughts yield good results, while bad thoughts yield bad results. The outer world of circumstance molds itself according to the inner world of thought, and both pleasant and unpleasant external conditions contribute to the ultimate good of the individual. As the reaper of his own harvest, a person learns through both suffering and joy. By following his innermost desires, operations, aspirations, and thoughts, a man ultimately allows himself to be guided whether he chases the fleeting shadows of impure imaginations or resolutely walks the path of strong and noble endeavors. In time, he reaches the fruition and fulfillment of these pursuits in the external conditions of his life. The laws of growth and adjustment are universal. Man does not end up in the poorhouse or the prison due to the sheer tyranny of fate or circumstance. Rather, man is ultimately allowed himself to be guided. Whether he chases the fleeting shadows of impure imaginations or resolutely walks the path of strong and noble endeavors. Rather, man does not end up in the poorhouse or the prison due to the sheer tyranny of fate or circumstance. In time, he reaches the fruition and fulfillment of these pursuits. The laws of growth and adjustment are universal. Man does not end up in the poorhouse or the prison due to the sheer tyranny of fate or circumstance. Rather, man does not end up in the poorhouse or the prison due to the sheer tyranny of fate or circumstance. Rather, man is ultimately allowed himself to be guided, whether he chases the fleeting shadows of impure imaginations or resolutely walks the path of strong and noble endeavors. In time, he reaches the fruition and fulfillment of these pursuits in the external conditions of his life. He travels down the pathway of degrading thoughts and base desires. Similarly, a pure-minded individual does not suddenly resort to crime under the pressure of any external force. The seeds of criminal thoughts have long been nurtured in the heart, and the moment of opportunity unveils their accumulated power. Circumstance does not shape the man, it simply reveals him to himself. Such conditions cannot exist, falling into vice and its accompanying sufferings, or ascending into virtue and its pure happiness, without the presence of vicious inclinations or the ongoing cultivation of virtuous aspirations. Thus, man, as the lord and master of thought, is both the creator and the architect of his own environment. From the moment of birth, the soul embarks on its journey, attracting the circumstances that reveal its true nature. These circumstances are mere reflections of its purity and impurity, its strengths and weaknesses. People do not attract what they desire, but rather they draw in that which they truly are. Their whims, fantasies, and ambitions may face obstacles at every turn, yet their innermost thoughts and desires are nourished by their own essence, whether that essence is tainted or pure. The divinity that shapes our ends resides within ourselves. It is our very being. Person is shackled only by their own limitations. Thought and action are the jailers of fate. They imprison those who are base, yet they also serve as the angels of freedom, liberating the noble. Man does not receive what he wishes and prays for, but rather what he justly earns. His wishes and prayers are only fulfilled when they align with his thoughts and actions. In light of this truth, but what does it truly mean to fight against circumstances? It suggests that a person is persistently revolting against an external effect, while, at the same time, nurturing and preserving its cause within his heart. That cause may manifest as a conscious vice or an unconscious weakness, but whatever form it takes, it stubbornly hinders the efforts of its possessor, loudly calling for remedy. People are eager to improve their circumstances, yet they are often unwilling to improve themselves. Thus, they remain bound. The individual who does not shy away from self-crucifixion will inevitably achieve the objectives upon which their heart is set. This principle holds true for both earthly and heavenly matters. Even the man whose primary goal is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make significant personal sacrifices before he can achieve his aim. How much more so for one who aspires to lead a strong and balanced life? Take, for example, a man who finds himself in wretched poverty. He is deeply anxious about improving his surroundings and the comforts of his home. Yet, he constantly avoids his responsibilities, believing he is justified in deceiving his employer due to the inadequacy of his wages. This man fails to grasp the simplest principles that form the foundation of genuine prosperity. Not only is he wholly unfit to rise out of his misery, but he is also drawing to himself an even deeper state of wretchedness by indulging in and acting upon lazy, deceptive, and unmanly thoughts. Now consider a wealthy man, plagued by a painful and persistent illness resulting from his gluttony. He is willing to part with large sums of money to rid himself of his condition, but he refuses to sacrifice his gluttonous desires. He wants to indulge in his taste for rich and unnatural foods while enjoying good health as well. Such a man is entirely unfit to possess health, for he has yet to learn the fundamental principles of a healthy life. Here is an employer who resorts to dishonest tactics to avoid paying the standard wage, hoping that by cutting his workers' pay, he can increase his profits. This individual is also completely unqualified for prosperity. When he finds himself bankrupt, both in terms of his reputation and his wealth, he blames the circumstances around him, unaware that he is the sole architect of his own plight. I have brought forth these 3 examples to illustrate the truth that a person is, albeit often unconsciously, the creator of their circumstances. While striving for a positive outcome, one can inadvertently thwart their own success by nurturing thoughts and desires that are incompatible with their goals. Such cases can be multiplied and varied almost indefinitely, but it's unnecessary. As the reader can, if they choose, trace the action of the laws of thought in their own mind and life. Until this is done, mere external facts cannot serve as a basis for reasoning. Circumstances are so complex. Thoughts are so deeply ingrained. And the conditions for happiness vary so greatly among individuals that a person's entire state of being, though known to themselves, cannot be accurately judged by another based solely on the external aspects of their life. A person may be honest in certain respects, yet experience deprivation, while another may be dishonest in some areas, yet acquire wealth. The typical conclusion drawn, that one person fails due to their particular honesty and the other prospers because of their particular dishonesty, is a result of superficial judgment. This viewpoint assumes the dishonest individual is almost entirely corrupt and the honest one is almost entirely virtuous. In light of deeper understanding and broader experience, such judgments are revealed to be misguided. The dishonest individual may possess admirable qualities that the honest person does not, while the honest individual might harbor undesirable vices that are missing in the other. The honest person enjoys the positive outcomes of their truthful thoughts and actions, yet they also endure the consequences of their own shortcomings. Similarly, the dishonest individual reaps their own rewards and suffers their own miseries. It is pleasing to human vanity to believe that one suffers because of one's virtue. However, not until a person has purified every sickly, bitter, and impure thought from their mind, and cleansed every sinful stain from their soul, can they truly know and declare that their sufferings stem from their goodness, rather than their shortcomings. Along the journey, even long before reaching that ultimate state of perfection, one will discover working within their mind and life the great law that is inherently just, which cannot produce good from evil, nor evil from good. With such understanding, one will look back upon their past ignorance and blindness, recognizing that their life has always been rightly ordered, and that all their past experiences, both good and bad, were the fair manifestations of their evolving, yet still evolving self. Good thoughts and actions can never yield bad results. Likewise, bad thoughts and actions can never yield good results. This simply means that nothing can come from corn but corn, and nothing from nettles but nettles. Men understand this law in the natural world and work with it. However, few grasp its significance in the mental and moral realms. Despite its operation being just as straightforward and unerring. As a result, many do not cooperate with it. Suffering is always the outcome of wrong thinking in some way. It serves as an indication that an individual is out of alignment with themselves and the law of their being. The primary purpose of suffering is to purify, to burn away all that is useless and impure. Suffering ceases for those who are pure. There would be no point in burning gold after all the dross has been removed. and an entirely pure and enlightened being could not suffer. The circumstances that a person faces in suffering are a reflection of their own mental discord, while the circumstances they encounter with joy and blessings arise from their own mental harmony. Blessedness, not material possessions. Blessedness is the measure of right thought. Man may be cursed and rich. He may be blessed and poor. Blessedness and riches are only joined together when the riches are rightly and wisely used. The poor man only descends into wretchedness when he regards his lot as a burden unjustly imposed. Indigence and indulgence are the two extremes of wretchedness, and both are equally unnatural, resulting from mental disorder. Man is not rightly conditioned until he's a happy, healthy, prosperous being. Happiness, health, more infinite than any action in man's decision, and prosperity are the results of a harmonious adjustment of the inner self with the outer world, of the individual with his surroundings. Man only begins to be truly human when he ceases to whine and revile, and starts to search for the hidden justice that regulates his life. As he aligns his mind with this regulating principle, he stops blaming others for his situation and instead nurtures strong and noble thoughts within himself. He no longer resists the circumstances of life, but begins to view them as tools for his accelerated growth and as avenues to uncover the latent abilities and possibilities that lie within him. In the universe, it is law and not chaos that prevails. Justice, not injustice, is the essence of existence. Righteousness, not corruption, is the driving force behind the spiritual governance of our world. With this understanding, a person only needs to set themselves right to discover that the universe is inherently just. During the journey of self-correction, one will realize that as they change their thoughts about circumstances and others, those circumstances and people will begin to respond positively in return. The evidence of this truth is present in every individual, making it accessible for thorough instruction through systematic introspection and self-analysis. Let a man radically alter his thoughts, and he will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will bring to the material conditions of his life. People often believe that their thoughts can remain secret, but they cannot. They swiftly crystallize into habits, and those habits solidify into circumstances. Negative thoughts turn into habits of indulgence and immorality, which then manifest as situations of poverty and illness. Impure thoughts of any kind can crystallize into debilitating and confusing habits, leading to distracting and adverse circumstances. Thoughts filled with fear, doubt, and indecision can solidify into weak and unassertive habits that ultimately create an environment of failure, neediness, dependence, and dependence. Lazy thoughts morph into habits of uncleanliness and dishonesty, which result in dire situations of squalor and begging. Hatred and judgmental thoughts can crystallize into habits of blame and aggression, creating circumstances of harm and persecution. Selfish thoughts of all kinds crystallize into habits that lead to self-seeking and often distressing circumstances. Conversely, beautiful thoughts can transform into habits of grace and kindness, solidifying into joyful and sunny conditions. Pure thoughts crystallize into habits of temperance and self-control, which in turn lead to states of tranquility and peace. Thoughts filled with courage, self-reliance, and decisiveness manifest as strong habits, resulting in success, abundance, and freedom. Energetic thoughts become habits of cleanliness and diligence, leading to pleasant surroundings. Gentle and forgiving thoughts crystallize into habits of gentleness, creating protective and nurturing environments. Lastly, loving and selfless thoughts transform into habits of self-forgetfulness for others, which ultimately generate lasting prosperity and true riches. Particular train of thought, whether positive or negative, will inevitably produce its results on one's character and circumstances. A person cannot directly choose their circumstances, but they can choose their thoughts, which, in turn, will shape their circumstances, albeit indirectly yet surely. Nature assists each individual in gratifying the thoughts they most nurture, therefore, positive or negative, presenting opportunities that bring to light both their good and bad thoughts. If one stops entertaining sinful thoughts, world will soften towards them and be ready to offer help. If they set aside weak and sickly thoughts, world will arise to support their strong resolutions. By encouraging good thoughts, no harsh fate will confine them to misery and shame. The world is your kaleidoscope, and the ever-changing combinations of colors it presents at each moment are the exquisitely aligned reflections of your constantly shifting thoughts. You will be what you will to be. Let failure find its false content in that poor word. Environment. A spirit scorns it, and is free. It masters time. It conquers space. It cows that boastful trickster, chance, and bids the tyrant circumstance uncrown and fill a servant's place. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, that force unseen, that can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Be not impatient in delay, but wait as one who understands. When spirit rises and commands, the gods are ready to obey. End effect of thought. O health. The body is the servant of the mind. It obeys the operations of the mind, whether they be chosen or deliberately expressed automatically. At the bidding of unlawful thoughts, the body sinks rapidly into disease and decay. At the command of glad and beautiful thoughts, it becomes clothed with youthfulness and beauty. Disease and health, like circumstances, are rooted in thought. Sickly thoughts will express themselves through a sickly body. The power of thoughts. Thoughts of fear have been known to kill a person as quickly as a bullet, and they are constantly killing thousands of people just as surely, though less swiftly. Those who live in fear of disease are often the ones who contract it. Anxiety quickly demoralizes the entire body, leaving it vulnerable to illness. Sometimes impure thoughts, even if not physically acted upon, will soon disrupt the nervous system. Strong, pure, and uplifting thoughts nurture the body, endowing it with vigor and grace. The body is a delicate and adaptable instrument that responds readily to the thoughts that impress upon it. Habits of thought will inevitably produce their own effects, whether good or bad. People will continue to suffer from impure and poisoned blood as long as they harbor unclean thoughts. From a clean heart comes a clean life and a healthy body. Conversely, a defiled mind leads to a defiled life and a corrupted body. Thought is the source of action, life, and manifestation. If we purify the source, all else will be pure as well. Changing one's diet won't help a person who refuses to change their thoughts. When a person purifies their thoughts, they naturally lose the desire for impure food. Clean thoughts foster clean habits. The so-called saint who neglects to care for their body is not truly a saint. A person who has strengthened and purified their thoughts need not worry about harmful microbes. If you wish to perfect your body, safeguard your mind. If you seek to rejuvenate your body, beautify your mind. Thoughts of malice, envy, disappointment, and distress rob the body of its health and grace. Sour expression doesn't arise by chance. It is crafted by sour thoughts. Wrinkles that mar the face are drawn by folly, passion, and pride. Know a woman of 96 who possesses the bright, innocent face of a girl. I also know a man, disappointment and pride within, whose face is drawn into unharmonious lines. The former reflects a sweet and sunny disposition, while the latter is the result of passion and discontent. Just as you cannot have a sweet and wholesome home without welcoming air and sunshine into your rooms, a strong body and a bright, happy, or serene countenance can only result from allowing thoughts of joy, goodwill, good fortune, and tranquility to freely enter your mind. The faces of the elderly bear wrinkles created by sympathy. Others are etched by strong and pure thoughts, while some are carved by passion. Who cannot tell the difference? For those who have lived righteously, aging is calm, peaceful, and gently softened, much like the setting sun. Recently witnessed a philosopher on his deathbed. He was not old in spirit, merely in years. He passed away as sweetly and peacefully as he had lived. There is no healer like cheerful thought for alleviating the ills of the body. There is no comforter to compare with goodwill for dispelling the shadows of grief and sorrow. To constantly dwell on thoughts of ill will, cynicism, suspicion, and envy is to be trapped in a self-made prison. To think well of all, to be cheerful toward everyone, and to patiently seek the good in all, such unselfish thoughts are the very gateways to heaven. To dwell day by day on thoughts of peace towards every creature will bring abundant peace to the one who nurtures it. Yet, until thought is linked with purpose, there can be no intelligent accomplishment. For many, the vessel of thought is allowed to simply drift on the ocean of life. Aimlessness is a vice, and such drifting must not persist for anyone who wishes to navigate clear of catastrophe and destruction. Those who lack a central purpose in their lives easily fall prey to petty worries, fears, troubles, and self-pity, all signs of weakness that lead, just as certainly as intentionally planned wrongdoings, to failure, unhappiness, and loss. Weakness cannot endure in a universe that thrives on strength. Man must conceive of a legitimate purpose in his heart and set out to achieve it. He should make this purpose the focal point of his thoughts. It can take the form of a spiritual ideal or a worldly goal, depending on his nature at that moment. However, he must constantly direct his mental energy toward the objective he has set for himself. He should regard this purpose as his highest duty and dedicate himself to achieving it, refusing to let his thoughts drift into fleeting fantasies, desires, or daydreams. This discipline is the path to self-control and genuine concentration of thought, even if he encounters repeated failures in his quest to fulfill his purpose. The strength of character he develops will be the true measure of his success. This, in turn, will create a new foundation for future power and achievement. For those who aren't ready to embrace a grand purpose, they should concentrate on performing their duties flawlessly, regardless of how trivial their tasks may seem. Only in this way can thoughts be gathered and focused, allowing for the development of resolution and energy. Once this is achieved, there is nothing that cannot be accomplished. The weakest soul, aware of its own frailties and believing in the truth that strength is cultivated through effort and practice, will begin to exert itself. By combining effort with effort, patience with patience, and strength with strength, it will never cease to grow and will ultimately become divinely strong. Just as a physically weak individual can build their strength through careful and persistent training, a person with weak thoughts can strengthen them by practicing right thinking. To cast aside aimlessness and weakness, and to start thinking with purpose, is to join the ranks of the strong, those who view failure as merely one of the pathways to achievement, who make every condition work in their favor, and who think powerfully, act fearlessly, and achieve masterfully. Once a man has defined his purpose, he should mentally chart a straight pathway toward achieving it, without glancing to the right or the left. Doubts and fears must be firmly pushed aside. They act as disintegrating forces that disrupt the line of dedicated effort, rendering it twisted, ineffective, and futile. Thoughts steeped in doubt and fear never yield results, and they never will. they inevitably lead to failure. The drive to act arises from the deep-seated belief that we are capable of achievement. Doubt and fear are the greatest adversaries of knowledge, and anyone who nurtures these sentiments, instead of vanquishing them, sabotages their own progress at every turn. Those who have triumphed over doubt and fear have triumphed over failure. Every thought of theirs is infused with power, and they confront all challenges with courage and wisdom. Their intentions are timely sown, blossoming into fruition that does not fall prematurely to the ground. Thought, aligned fearlessly with purpose, becomes a creative force. He who understands this is prepared to transform into something greater and more powerful than a mere collection of wavering thoughts and fluctuating sensations. Those who achieve this have become conscious and intelligent wielders of their mental powers. All that a person accomplishes, as well as all that they fail to achieve, is directly linked to their own thoughts. In a well-ordered universe, where a loss of balance could lead to total destruction, individual responsibility must be absolute. A person's weaknesses and strengths, as well as their purity or impurities, are their own and not anyone else's. They are cultivated by the individual, not by another, and can only be changed by the individual, never by someone else. A person's condition is also their own, separate from that of others. Their suffering and happiness arise from within. As they think, so they become. As they continue to think, so they remain. Strong man cannot help a weaker one unless that weaker individual is willing to be helped. Even then, the weaker person must find strength within themselves. They must, through their own efforts, cultivate the strength they admire in others. No one but themselves can change their circumstances. It has often been said that many are enslaved because of a single oppressor, prompting the idea to hate the oppressor. However, an emerging perspective among a growing number of people is to reverse this judgment and suggest, one man is an oppressor because many remain enslaved. Let us scorn the slaves. The truth is that both oppressor and oppressed are complicit in ignorance. While they may seem to inflict suffering upon one another, they are, in fact, causing harm to themselves. Perfect knowledge recognizes the role of law in the weakness of the oppressed and the misuse of power by the oppressor. Perfect love, understanding the pain born of both conditions, does not condemn either party. Perfect compassion encompasses both the oppressor and the oppressed. He who has conquered weakness and set aside all selfish thoughts belongs neither to the oppressor nor the oppressed. He is truly free. Man can only rise, see to conquer, and achieve by elevating his thoughts. He can only remain weak, abject, and miserable by refusing to lift his thoughts. Before a man can accomplish anything, even in worldly matters, he must elevate his mind above mere animalistic indulgence. He may not, in order to succeed, completely abandon all animality and selfishness, but he must at least sacrifice a portion of it. A man whose first thought is centered on base desires cannot think clearly or plan methodically. That he will be unable to discover and develop his hidden potential and will likely fail in any endeavor. Lacking the courage to control his thoughts, read on. He is not prepared to manage his affairs or take on serious responsibilities. He is unfit to act independently and stand alone. However, he is unfit only by the thoughts he chooses to embrace. There can be no achievement or progress without sacrifice. Man's worldly success will be measured by how much he is willing to sacrifice his confused, animalistic thoughts and focus his mind on the development of his plans. Read on, as well as the strengthening of his resolve and self-reliance. The higher he elevates his thoughts, the more noble, upright, and virtuous he becomes. Consequently, the greater his success will be, and the more blessed and lasting his achievements. The universe does not favor the greedy, the dishonest, the unfair, or the vicious, despite how it may sometimes seem on the surface. It supports the honest, the magnanimous, and the virtuous. All the great teachers throughout the ages have expressed this in various forms. And to truly understand and prove it, a person simply needs to persist in purifying himself by uplifting his thoughts. Intellectual achievements are born from thoughts dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, as well as the search for beauty and truth in life and nature. Such achievements may sometimes be associated with vanity and ambition, yet they are not the result of those traits. Instead, they are the natural consequences of persistent and diligent effort, as well as pure and selfless thoughts. Achievements are the culmination of holy aspirations. Those who consistently nurture noble and lofty thoughts, who contemplate all that is pure and altruistic, will, just as surely as the sun reaches its zenith and the moon its fullness, become wise and noble in character. They will ascend to positions of influence and blessedness. Achievement, in any form, is the crown of effort and the diadem of thought. Through self-control, determination, purity, righteousness, and well-directed thought, a person rises. But through lethargy, indifference, impurity, corruption, and muddled thoughts, one descends. Man may rise to great success in the world and even reach lofty heights in the spiritual realm. Yet he can just as easily descend into weakness and misery by allowing arrogant, selfish, and corrupt thoughts to take hold of him. Victories attained through right thinking can only be sustained by vigilance. Many falter when success seems assured and quickly fall back into failure. All achievements, whether in business, intellectual pursuits, or spiritual endeavors, are the result of clearly directed thought. They are governed by the same laws and utilize the same methods. The only difference lies in the object of attainment. He who seeks to accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who aims for much must be willing to sacrifice much. And he who wishes to attain greatness must sacrifice greatly. The dreamers are the saviors of the world. Just as the visible world is supported by the invisible, many, despite their trials, sins, and sordid pursuits, are nourished by the beautiful visions held by solitary dreamers. Humanity cannot forget its dreamers. It cannot allow their ideals to fade and die. It lives within them. It recognizes them as the realities it will one day see and experience. Composer, sculptor, painter, poet, prophet, sage. These are the creators of the afterworld, the architects of heaven. The world is beautiful because they have existed. Without them, laboring humanity would perish. Those who hold a beautiful vision, a lofty ideal in their hearts, will someday make it a reality. Columbus nurtured a vision of another world, and he discovered it. Copernicus embraced the idea of a multitude of worlds and a broader universe, and he brought it to light. Buddha envisioned a spiritual realm of pure beauty and perfect peace, and he entered into it. Cherish your visions. Oh no. Cherish your ideals. Oh no. Cherish the music that stirs in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind, the loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts. For out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environments. If you remain true to them, your world will eventually be built. To desire is to obtain, to aspire is to achieve. Shall man's basest desires receive the fullest measure of gratification, while his purest aspirations starve for lack of sustenance? Such is not the law. Such a condition can never prevail. Ask, and you shall receive. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall ultimately unveil. The greatest achievement was first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. Oh no, the bird waits in the egg. Oh no, and in the highest vision of the soul, an awakening angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. Your circumstances may be unfavorable, but they will not remain so for long if you can envision an ideal and strive to attain it. You cannot travel within while remaining stagnant on the outside. Picture a young person pressed hard by poverty and labor, confined to long hours in an unhealthy workshop, unschooled, and lacking the refinements of life. Yet he dreams of better things. He envisions intelligence, refinement, grace, and beauty. He mentally constructs and builds an ideal life for himself. A vision of greater liberty and broader horizons takes hold of him. Unrest drives him to action, and he makes use of every spare moment and resource, however minimal, to develop his latent talents and capabilities. In no time at all, his mindset transforms so significantly that the workshop can no longer contain him. It becomes so out of sync with his evolving mentality that it falls away from his life, much like a garment that is cast aside. With the emergence of opportunities that align with his expanding potential, he moves beyond it for good. Years later, we see this youth as a fully grown man. He has become a master of certain forces of the mind, wielding them with a worldwide influence and almost unparalleled power. In his hands, he holds the cords of gigantic responsibilities. He speaks, and lo, lives are changed. Men and women hang on his words, reshaping their characters. Like the sun, he becomes the fixed and luminous center around which countless destinies revolve. He has realized the vision of his youth. He has become one with his ideal. And you, too, youthful reader, to be his, will realize the vision, not the idle wish of your heart, be it base or beautiful, or a mixture of both. You will always gravitate toward that which you secretly love the most. Into your hands will be placed the exact results of your own thoughts. You will receive that which you earn, no more, no less. Whatever your present environment may be, you will fall, remain, return, or rise with your thoughts, your vision, your ideal. You will become as small as your controlling desire, and as great as your dominant aspiration. In the beautiful words of Stanton Kirkham Davis, you may be busy keeping accounts, and before you know it, you will walk through the door that has long seemed like a barrier to your ideals. You will find yourself standing before an audience, the pen still in your hand, ink stains on your fingers, and in that moment, you will unleash a torrent of inspiration. You might be herding sheep, and suddenly, you will wander into the city, wide-eyed and awestruck. You will be guided by the indomitable spirit into the studio of the master. After a time, he will say, "I've nothing more to teach you." And in that moment, you will have become the master, who not long ago dreamed of great things while tending sheep. You will set down the saw and the plane to embrace the regeneration of the world, the thoughtless, the ignorant, and the indolent, seeing only the apparent effects of things and not the things themselves. Speak of luck, fortune, and chance. When they see a man grow rich, it say, "How lucky he is." Observing another becoming intellectually accomplished, exclaim, "How highly favored he is." And noting the saintly character and wide influence of another, they remark, "What a coincidence that he succeeds at every turn." They fail to recognize the trials and failures that these men have voluntarily faced in order to gain their experience. They have no knowledge of the sacrifices they have made, the indomitable efforts they have exerted, or the faith they have nurtured to overcome what seemed insurmountable and to realize the vision of their hearts. They do not know the darkness and heartaches. They only see the light and joy and call it luck. They fail to recognize the long and arduous journey behind the pleasant goal, labeling it simply as good fortune. They do not understand the process. They only perceive the outcome and refer to it as chance. In all human endeavors, there are efforts, and there are results. The strength of the effort defines the measure of those results, while chance does not play a role. Gifts, powers, and material, intellectual, and spiritual possessions are the fruits of hard work. They represent thoughts completed, tasks accomplished, and visions brought to life. The vision you glorify in your mind, the ideal you hold dear in your heart, this is what you will build your life upon. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It emerges from long and patient effort in self-control. Its presence signifies ripened experience and an extraordinary understanding of the laws and workings of thought. Man becomes calm to the extent that he understands himself as a being shaped by thought. This understanding requires him to recognize that others are also products of thought, as he cultivates a clearer perception of the internal relationships between things through the principles of cause and effect. He begins to shed the anxieties, worries, and griefs that trouble him. Instead, he remains poised, steadfast, serene. The calm man, having learned to govern himself, knows how to adapt to those around him. In turn, others respect his spiritual strength, feeling that they can learn from him and depend on him. The more tranquil a man becomes, the greater his success, influence, and ability to do good. Even an ordinary trader will notice an increase in business prosperity as he develops greater self-control and equanimity. For people naturally prefer to engage with someone who exhibits a steady demeanor. The strong, calm man is always cherished and respected. He is like a shade-giving tree in a parched land or a sheltering rock in a storm. Who doesn't love a tranquil heart? A sweet-tempered, balanced life. It doesn't matter whether it rains or shines, or what changes befall those who possess these blessings, for they are always sweet, serene, and calm. That exquisite poise of character we call serenity is the ultimate lesson of culture. It is the blossoming of life, the fruit of the soul. It is as precious as wisdom, more desirable than gold. More desirable than gold, yes, even more than fine gold. How insignificant the mere pursuit of money appears in comparison to a serene life, a life that dwells in the ocean of truth, beneath the waves, beyond the waves of tempests. The eternal calm. How many people do we know who sour their lives, who ruin all that is sweet and beautiful with explosive tempers, who destroy their characters, poise, and create ill feelings? It raises the question of whether the vast majority of people do not ruin their lives and mar their happiness due to a lack of self-control. How few people do we encounter in life who are well-balanced, who possess that exquisite poise characteristic of a well-developed character? Indeed, humanity often surges with uncontrolled passion, tumultuous with ungoverned grief, tossed about by anxiety and doubt. Only the wise man, the one whose thoughts are disciplined and pure, can command the winds and storms of the soul to obey him. Tempest-tossed souls, wherever you may be, under whatever conditions you may live, remember this: in the vast ocean of life, the isles of blessedness are awaiting your arrival, and the sunny shores of your ideal life lie just ahead. Keep your hand firmly on the helm of your thoughts. In the vessel of your soul rests the commanding master, ... He may be asleep, ... but awaken him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery, ... Calmness is power. Speak to your heart, ... Peace, be still. Thank you for listening on Audiobook Heritage. Subscribe for more timeless classics.